Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Chopping Block podcast. My name is Paddy Stapleton, and every week I'll be sitting down with a different guest for a chat about food. Some of my guests make their living in the food or drinks trade, while some just love food. I'll be talking to a variety of people and exploring a little bit of their lives every week. Some of my guests you may have heard of before, some you definitely won't know, but what unites all these people is the stories they have to tell about the role food and drink play in their lives. So sit back, put your feet up, pour yourself a good cup of coffee, and enjoy this episode of The Chopping Block. I literally first met this week's guest on the day he was born, as he is my nephew. I've shared many a meal with him, and then later in life, many a pint or many a whiskey. Now, almost 30 years later, he's one of the country's leading baristas with a wealth of knowledge about coffee that will put you or I to shame. He's also the first person I know to have had a dinner date broadcast on TV to the whole nation when he participated in First Dates Ireland. Eoghan Newman, welcome to the pod and thank you for sitting down with me.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Okay, so let's start as we do every week with 20 either-or questions.
Okay.
These are just to help us learn a little bit about you. You can interpret them any way you want. You can go into detail or you can just fly through them. Entirely up to you. Hopefully by the end, you'll just give us a little flavour of what your tastes are. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, number one, coffee shop or pub?
Pub.
Really?
Yeah. I know.
Okay. Beans or no beans?
Beans.
Medium rare or medium well?
Medium rare.
Butter in the fridge or butter in the cupboard?
Butter in the cupboard.
Surf or turf?
Turf.
Iced coffee or Irish coffee?
Irish coffee.
Knife and fork or fingers?
Knife and fork.
French press or pour over?
Pour over.
Dinner with friends or dinner with family?
Friends.
Family in the room here. Hot dogs or nachos?
Nachos.
Decaf or never decaf?
Decaf.
Decaf. Candy floss or popcorn?
Popcorn.
Avocado or quinoa?
Avocado.
Fajitas or burritos?
Burritos.
Eggs Benedict or full Irish?
Full Irish.
Mushroom sauce or pepper sauce?
Mushroom sauce.
Chamomile tea or Darjeeling tea?
Ooh. Chamomile.
5-second rule or straight into the bin?
5-second rule.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
And then last question, is a Jaffa cake a cake or is it a biscuit?
It's a cake.
It's a cake, good. Okay, so very quick with the friends there over the family. You've obviously listened to the last couple of podcasts and you were prepared for that one.
Yeah, I was actually.
And pub over coffee shop?
Yeah, I suppose.
I'm guessing you're talking personal, not business.
Yeah, no, it is personal. And while I do, and like one of the things I love about, working in coffee in the industry and stuff like that is, the atmosphere that you get in a coffee shop and the culture that surrounds it and all that kind of thing. But
you just can't pay the pub.
You just can't pay it. It's just, yeah. Some of my fondest memories are in pubs. It's always really great and nice to go into a cafe and all that, but it's got to be a pub. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about coffee to start. So we're drinking some coffee that I just watched Eoghan make a coffee in the kitchen, and it was like watching science at work. I've never made a coffee that's taken me longer than maybe 2 or 3 minutes to make. This one has been on the go about 10 minutes. So tell me what we're drinking.
So this is it's a natural Honduran. From Square Mile. I'm not sure what the variety of the coffee. It's an Arabica anyway, but I'm not sure the varietal. Square Mile they're a roastery based, and they used to be based in London, but they moved. I can't remember where they moved, and it's run by a guy called James Hoffman. He'd probably be top 3 guys in the specialty coffee industry. And they do really, really good stuff, and he does really, really good stuff. He's got a YouTube, he's got a website, blog, all that kind of stuff. So if anyone's ever interested in learning a bit more about coffee, he's the guy.
And is that nerdy coffee? Like, would I be able to look at it and appreciate it, or do you need to have a certain amount of knowledge? Like coffee can get very nerdy, and kind of I would rate the guys higher who can bridge that gap between, that nerdiness you can really go down rabbit holes with it, but can bridge that gap between that and someone who really doesn't know a whole lot about coffee, and he's quite good at that. So he could talk to you and talk to me, we could both understand.
Yeah, exactly. Like you watch his stuff on YouTube, and sometimes it can be a bit much, and he doesn't get it right the whole time. But his stuff is very, very good, and like even the ideas that he has are very, very interesting, and it's kind of a point of frustration with me sometimes because I see the kind of stuff that he does. I'm like, Tom, why didn't I think of doing that? You know what I mean?
It's always a great idea when somebody else has it.
I know. So he's really good. Yeah.
So let's go back to the start. How did you get into coffee?
So coffee was a funny one because I never really enjoyed the taste of it for the best part of my life, even when I was younger. But when I was younger, I found a big fondness for making it for whatever reason, and even to this day, I don't know why. I really just liked making coffee. First cup of coffee I ever made was for my grandmother, your mother. She gave me simple instruction of putting a level teaspoon in coffee and just adding water. I did that, brought it out to her. She nearly spat it on me because I put 11 teaspoons of the instant coffee instead of. So that was a steep learning curve for my first son. Yeah. Did I never tell you that story?
No.
Really? No. Oh my god! I can't believe I never told you that story.
I'm glad you haven't.
Yeah. She spat. I remember. It was a very.
What age were you?
It was a very visceral image of your grandmother just like literally just spraying coffee across. She was out in the garden. It was so funny.
What age were you?
I'd say I was not even. I'd say I was 9 or 10. A safe age to operate a kettle, I'd say, so whatever that is. But then just from there, I don't know. I think whatever. When you're I was the youngest. I was the only grandchild for a good while, so I had a good few years of being the gopher and being the coffee maker and the tea maker and all that kind of crack. And I just really liked. I just really liked making it. I think I remember seeing John, your brother, make a coffee in the microwave, and I was just like, what did you just do there? What's that all about? And I didn't know what it was.
You just have the curiosity.
I don't know. And then like the thing back then is there wasn't an enormous amount of access to what I consider coffee now. It was all instant coffee, but I remember, you can, there's a thing you can do in instant coffee, which is, you get your spoon of instant and you put some sugar in it and a little bit of water, you make a paste, and when you add hot water to that, it kind of foams up. And I just remember getting obsessed with getting that so you're stirring it, you're 19, you're trying to incorporate, like, I didn't know at the time that that's what I was doing, incorporating air and kind of creating this little mini reaction. But
so you're getting into science of it unbeknownst to yourself, nearly.
Well, yeah, basically. And the funny thing is, during lockdown, another kind of hit at your man, getting these ideas. There's this thing that I don't know who invented it, but during lockdown, there was a lot of inventiveness in that time when it was the deep lockdown, and
people had time.
Yeah, people had time, and people had time to get inventive. So someone invented what was called a Dalgona coffee. Have you heard about it?
No.
So it's basically just that paste, but people put it. You get a glass, you fill it with ice, you put milk in it, and then you just float that paste over it, and that became a Dalgona coffee, and it became I think it was through TikTok maybe or something like that, and it became a worldwide sensation.
And was it the instant coffee paste?
Yeah, that's what people did.
Again, you should have seen this.
What's the story? Where's my paycheck, or where's my little slice of this pie?
So when did you figure you'd make a career out of coffee? Was it something you aimed towards, or was it just something you were interested in?
No, I never aimed towards it. I remember starting working in restaurants and stuff like that. When I got my first proper job working with yourself over in Kells on the ground floor.
That was your first access to a proper coffee machine?
First access to my coffee. And it was different back then, because the measure for what was good back then was different to what I would consider now, or even what the standard to what good is now is. I remember seeing one of the girls make the foamiest cappuccino I've ever made. And even though that's not what you'd like to get now, I was obsessed with that. I was like, I wanna make the foamiest cappuccino. So yeah, and I still didn't enjoy I still wasn't a big fan of the taste of it.
I remember trying to fill you with double espressos.
Yeah, I know, but it just wasn't.
You come in from college hungover, and I'd be firing espressos at you.
Yeah, it just, and then you get into then the whole other side of it, which is the latte art side of it, which is I think that the whole thing that really sparked my interest with coffee is that it's almost it's just pure alchemy. You're getting this bean, you're crushing it, you're putting it in a machine, you get this mad liquid out. Then you get milk and you steam it with this wand, and then you can create like something in it, and something out of nothing. What I've learned then is, going on in my career with it, is that it's not alchemy. There's actually, stated science behind it, and you actually can learn so much about it. But it was never a career thing, and even when I got my first job in coffee, it was very surreal to actually, it became a hobby. I did lots of courses.
This was before you got the job or after?
This was after. So
how did you get the job?
My first coffee job?
Yeah.
Well, the first coffee trial I ever did didn't go my way. I didn't get the job. It was really intense. I interviewed the guy, and he started asking me all these kind of very, very deep kind of questions about coffee, and it was the most intense interview I've ever had. And it went okay. I kind of held my own, and then from the knowledge that I garnered from doing different courses and stuff, and just from it being my hobby. And then I got on the machine and the bar, and it just didn't. I didn't really have that much experience on that kind of machine. So I remember thinking, right, feck this. Went back to the drawing board. Actually went up to the Russell. Got your permission. Went up and just banged out coffee straight, probably for about 2 nights straight, and then went in to get went for another interview, on a trial and all that, and it went very well.
Where was that?
That was in a place called Sister Sadie in Dublin.
I remember visiting you there. The greatest donuts I've ever had in my life.
Yeah,
coffee wasn't bad either.
Remember the time you went there and they had no coffee? Remember the water was gone?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Just going back a little bit. When you say you came back from that first interview and you told your friends, I had this. It was like really deep into coffee. Like, did your friends understand, or were they like, it's only coffee? Like, is there a lot of that people don't appreciate coffee to the level that you would like them to?
Yeah, well, like, I suppose
that doesn't sound too pretentious,
no,
but you know what I mean.
Not at all. No, when it comes to my friends, like, and I'm very lucky that most of my friends are quite close. They're close friends, and that's kind of how I like it. You know what I mean?
They'll put up with your shit.
Yeah, exactly. And they knew kind of the passion I had for it and like the interest and stuff. So the interest I had in it. So I don't think they were ever. They just kind of went with it, and they, I think they were just happy for me because I was doing something they really liked. I suppose there is that gulf of knowledge between something that, things that I can just rattle off, and that's just from doing it. That's like with any industry, anything that anyone works in. But I suppose with coffee, it's funny that something that's so ubiquitous, like it's, in terms of
it's an
a beverage that's drank across the world by so many people. That the gulf of knowledge between like what me and people in the industry would know, and someone just coming in to a cafe where I work and asking me about coffee.
So how long were you in Sister Sadie's for?
I was there for about 9 months. I don't know what it was, but just the stars aligned, and I absolutely just killed it on the day.
Really, on your trial?
Yeah, like it was like it like. Even when you explain latte art to people and how latte art is one of the hardest things to teach people, because it's all really small little movements in your hand that you can't really teach someone. They just have to.
It's intuitive.
They almost have to have a breakthrough, and then their muscle memory just locks in and they know how to do that. But I think I was lucky enough that I had a breakthrough on the day of my trial. I remember one of the girls who said, Hannah, who I'm still really good friends with today, she goes to me, she just said to me under her breath, "You better not be better than me." And then I poured this really nice little tulip, and she goes, "Fuck, you're better than me." And then that was it. So yeah. And
when you went in for your first day, were you nervous you wouldn't have that again?
Yeah, I suppose I was, and I suppose you're kind of coming from it that, like, this is Dublin, and this is serious stuff. You know what I mean? And there's two managers there at the time, and one of them who's also a good friend as well. Her name is Leslie Ann. Like, she was, and I say this in a good way, and people who know her will know that it's in a good way. But she is a weapon. Like, she is a weapon, like, force to be reckoned with.
So you couldn't rest on your laurels?
Not really. There was one day where there was words with me, and then after that it was like, cool, okay, I know what I have to do now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and how long you were 9 months in Sister Sadie's?
Yeah.
And why did you leave?
Well, so I was there for about 2 months. Then the guy who was the head barista, Connor, really really good, taught me a lot. He moved on to work in like coffee events. So there's a body that organised there's like worldwide competitions for coffee and stuff like that. So he went to work for them, and then they offered me the head barista role, and I was delighted. And then I was there for the rest. And then the other manager at the time, Kevin, he was always looking to open up his own place, and he asked me to come over and work for him and handle all the coffee side of things. So that's when I left there, and I went and joined him and his partner Torin when they opened up Two Boys Brew in Phibsborough that was in 2016 in July. It's funny because it was July, was it? Yeah, it was July. Because the funny thing was, Torin said, if I don't, I think he gave an ultimatum to Kevin maybe and said, if I don't have a cafe, if I don't own a cafe by my 30th birthday, I'm leaving you. And we opened it on his birthday.
Well, you want to get things done.
Yeah, no, it was like in the end, looking back, it was kind of an opportunity I couldn't have refused really.
And Two Boys Brew fast became one of the coolest places in the city. It was kind of, if I remember right, correct me here, it was kind of the first cool, and I don't like using the word hipster, but it was kind of hipster. It was the first cool coffee shop on the north side, up in the area it was in, in Phibsborough. It was the start of, for want of a better way of putting it, the regeneration of that area, or the gentrification of that area. Some people wouldn't say that's a good thing. Some people would say that's a good thing. Some people would say that's a bad thing. Yeah. But it became noticeable and stood out because it was the only thing like it.
Like the one thing the lads did very well is they just killed it. Like from day one, they just killed it.
I remember the first time I went in, the menu was class.
Yeah.
The menu was just, it was different without being too different. There was so many options on it. The coffee obviously was brilliant. The Creole chicken. Was that on at the start?
Yeah, like
is that a staple?
It is, and like until I was there, it was the one dish that never changed, or there wasn't a different iteration of it. It always changed.
Lime Creole, what was it?
It was a breaded chicken thigh in a Creole spice mix. There was
lime mayonnaise.
Yeah, it was a lime cashew aioli. There was shredded. I think it was red cabbage on it, and
it was amazing.
Yeah.
And on the menu, I never forget. Also, you will be waiting 15 minutes. And I remember every time I went into order, it was like, that's 15 minutes.
I know.
Then there was the beef cheek Benedict.
Yeah, beef cheek Benny.
Yeah,
savage.
And there's times there was things I had the last time when I'd go in and they'd be gone. And I was like, oh, but it'd force you to try something new. And I never ever had a bad meal up there. It was so good.
No, it's great. It really is. And they also they did so well with the. Like, we were busy straight away, and it relatively so. Like, if we had, let's say, a week, like if I was still there and we had a week that we had in the first week, let's say, now we'd be like, lads, what's going on? We're very quiet. But relative to us, we were quite busy, and we kind of had to handle it all. But I think that was testament to like just the social media. Like Torin would do all the social media, and he did such a great job of creating that little bit of buzz, and obviously people around were crying out for a place like that. You can talk about gentrification and all that kind of stuff, but and good or bad, it's not a black and white thing. But if you look at it objectively, like, if we're that busy, obviously people want it, and so. But yeah, no, it's
good. And then you finished up in Two Boys just pre-lockdown, during lockdown.
Yeah, so it was. It was. There was a bit of over and back throughout the whole period, but around about kind of March, April was when I finished up. I intended to finish up with them anyway. I'd been there for 4 years, nearly 4 years, and just felt like a change, felt like a move, felt like travelling, but obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah, it's all about Grace plans of mice and men or whatever that was. Yeah, so. And you started working in a new place recently? Yeah,
so I just started working in a place called Two Pups. So they're based in the Liberties, just kind of adjacent to St. Patrick's Cathedral. So they were looking for a weekend barista, so I took that and doing weekends now, and then we'll be full time then kind of September, end of September onwards. So
you still have the plan to travel if this ever dies down?
I think so, but it's like, I suppose traveling is not something I I've really done a whole lot, and like I have never really done that big travel, you know, like
Gap year or whatever.
Gap year and like that, just because I don't know, I've kind of always worked. It's always just been what I've done, and I've always enjoyed having financial independence and stuff like that. You know, not to say that people who travel don't, or I could have saved to do so or anything like that,
but I'd imagine being a barista is something you could travel the world with.
Oh yeah, definitely, and but yeah, it would be something I would do. But it's kind of, I do really like Ireland, and I do like, there's lots I do like about being here, and
But you wouldn't mind getting away for a year.
yeah, no, absolutely.
And would coffee dictate where you would travel to? As in, so I remember the first time I knew that you were properly a coffee head was when we were in Berlin for a lads' week away, and we went to a place called the Barn.
Yeah.
And we ordered some coffees, and you got talking to one of the staff there. I think she was the head barista or whatever. And it was like you were both talking a different language, even though you were both talking English.
Yeah.
But me and Damien, who was with us, were looking at him going, Jesus,
Yeah.
he knows his shit.
Yeah. It would dictate where I would go, because I think the thing that I enjoy about traveling is going to cities and kind of, you know, spending time in their culture. And I think, you know, cafe culture can be like a little microcosm of what that city is like. And yeah, just kind of, there's nothing I like more than spending there than going from cafe to cafe. And then obviously go to a pub later on and have a few pints. But yeah, it definitely would. Yeah.
And would you have any interest in going and seeing the origins, going to coffee farms? Is that something that would be on the list to do?
Yeah, it would definitely. Like, you know, I think that part of it is a whole side I wouldn't have, not enormous. I would have knowledge about, but I wouldn't have an enormous amount, because it's not as easy to attain when you're not. You know, people who roast coffee would have a little bit more, like the guys up in Root and Branch, like Simon. He's the owner, and you know, he roasting his knowledge about. I actually did a day course with him on roasting and the knowledge that he has. He has a background in, and apologies if I get this right, but I think it's molecular biology, and like that really stood to him doing what he does now, and he was explaining concepts to us, and you know, it's just kind of exactly. But that's always, you know, working in what I do, what I seem to always be pushing or always wanted to push was, you know, getting the best out of the coffee and making things as efficient as possible, and that seems to be the goal for my role in this industry. But what's good about people who roast, it seems to be their goal is to create better relationships between farmers and better conditions for farmers, and really pushing
like
that
the fair trade movement.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on from coffee. We've gone very in depth there, but it's interesting. I mean, I've seen you in action, and there tonight I was watching with a view to what we're going to talk about on the pod. It's an experience in itself. I think that's kind of what it is as well. It's an experience, isn't it?
Yeah. What is like,
as in seeing a proper coffee made properly?
Yeah, it is. Like when you get into it, you just learn there's a lot going on. And the thing about specialty coffee is what it is it's really about where it's from. Like that's kind of what's defined. It's defined as you're paying particular attention to the specific, let's say, microclimate that this coffee's come from, and that's, you know, that has to do with the climate, that has to do with the country.
So you'd equate it to wine, really?
Yeah, definitely. Like it's what the soil is going to give you.
Terroir.
I really don't like saying that word.
But it's what it
I
is.
know it is, but I'm like, the stuff that's in the soil that gives you know what I mean?
Terroir.
Yeah. All that kind of stuff. But that's since gone on, and there's so much, like comparing it to wine. Like a wine can be, a bottle of wine can be produced on one farm, whereas with coffee, there's so many hands in the chain of production, right up to me, right up to as a professional barista, right up to the person who's at home just making it, has a passion about it. And it's all about just really paying deference to all those steps along the way. So when you're doing something like that, and when you're making coffee, you really want to give it its proper attention, and you want to, like when I buy a bag of coffee, I want to taste this in the best way possible. Yeah. I don't want to just bang it in and just be like, grand. I want to get the best out of it. So that's kind of where it comes from.
So that's something for everybody to think about the next time they take their spoonful of instant coffee and they put it in hot water and they stir it. Right, let's talk about food. So I mentioned at the start that you went on to First Dates Ireland.
I did.
Hell of an experience.
Yeah, it was. It was. It was a mad experience, but it was great.
What made you go for it?
Well, when I lived in Navan for a couple of years with two of my very good friends, and we used to watch the British version when it first came out, and two of us were single at the time, and it got a bit sad, like when you're just kind of, you're looking at these couples get on, and then you kind of look at each other just longingly in the eye and says, "Oh, isn't that lovely?" You know what I mean? And then I just saw that, RT were taking applications for an Irish version. I just said, "Oh, wouldn't this be gas?" I applied, and then I just kept getting through the processes, and just got on it then, and eventually.
Do you remember the meal?
Yeah, I remember the meal.
Was it good?
No, it was shite. Yeah. No, I said it was good. It's the only, I had people asking me, like, was there things that they told you to say? And not really. Kind of like, I remember talking to the producer lady who was dealing, what was her name? Sharon was her name. I remember I bumped into her on a night out in Navan one night randomly. But she was dealing with me, and she said to me, like, you said something really interesting in the interview process. Maybe bring that up, but that was it. And then there was nothing else that was forced.
But did you have to lie about the food?
No, I just wanted to be nice. I didn't want to, you know what I mean? But it wasn't great. No.
And were you able to think about the food? Like, were you able to enjoy the food? Were the nerves not there? I mean, surely you knew that there was going to be hundreds of thousands of people listening to you and what you were talking about over dinner.
Well, to be honest,
or were you able to switch off?
No, I wasn't able to switch off. But the thing I wasn't able to switch off from wasn't the fact that I was going to be on national television. It was that I was having a blind date. That was the thing that was. And I've told people this, and they're like, "No, surely it's because you were going." And it was like, "No, it was. I was overcome by nervousness because I was going on a blind date, or just a date, and it was just so unknown and stuff like that." Obviously, tremors of everything else added into that, but like, it's a bizarre situation to be in.
And then the lovely Karen rocked up.
Yeah,
and she came across, like, the two of you came across really well. But obviously, I know you. She seemed like a lovely girl.
Yeah, no, like we had a really nice day. Like it was. I suppose for the 15 minutes that was on the telly, we were there for about 2.5 hours.
Really?
Yeah, about 2 hours, I'd say.
And the very Irish thing, you're going on a date, you get a couple of drinks into you. Was there a fear that you might get pissed?
Well, this is the thing. I didn't drink too much. I had a drink at the start, and I think I had a drink during the meal. She was the same. She had a cocktail, and then we got another drink. But we didn't go mad on the beer.
Purposely?
No, not really. It was just kind of...
Conversation was going so well, you didn't need to?
Yeah, conversation was just flowing, and it just happened so quickly. That we weren't... I wasn't even thinking that I needed a drink. Or
that's good.
Even, so yeah, that part of it. No, so I wasn't really worried about that part of it, yeah.
I remember the night it was released, there was a couple on before you, and they were tools.
Yeah.
So you were on it. You two looked even better in comparison to them. You still in touch with Karen?
No. We
you had a couple of dates, I think, did you?
We went on one date afterwards, but that was it. It was kind of I kind of said that was going to be it. Really.
The program must have been heartbroken.
But like she's actually, as far as I know, she's engaged now, if
Very
not
good.
married. Yeah. So who's the loser now? Yeah.
Would you do it again? You're single at the moment.
Yeah. Would I do it again? No, I don't think I'd like to allow that level of not being in control of, let's say, who I was going to go on a date with and stuff.
Okay.
It's kind of the ante is just upped so much. But like an experience like it, yeah, maybe, but I wouldn't. Like, watching it was absolutely awful. It's kind of like what I say to people is, like, when you hear your own voice and it's awful, times that by 100.
I was watching along. I watched it, and I was watching along on Twitter.
Yeah.
And Twitter loved you.
It was that was the best part of it. It was so funny. But even the negative comments, even though I didn't get that many.
There was one I remember.
Yeah.
I'd say that guy own pisses sitting
Yeah,
down.
I know. So
but there was
funny.
all the coffee one joke, like somebody said that barista can flick my bean anytime.
Yeah.
It was very funny. So it must have been nice to come out of it well and know people actually thought you were okay.
Yeah, no.
Another one, was that own fella is exactly the kind of guy my mommy would want me to bring home.
Yeah. I think, yeah, no, look, that was great. But I think that the nicest compliment I got from it, in spite of all that, was, I think when I asked people, they just said I was myself, and I came across as myself, and that was kind of, you know, like, obviously there's things that you wouldn't say on, not on national television, but on a first date and stuff like that. But, you know, even to that extent, to be recognised as, yeah, you were definitely yourself, you know, that was kind of the biggest compliment.
We will put up the link to YouTube where you can watch the whole date of Eoghan and Karen.
Is it?
It's on YouTube.
Not the full date.
Yeah, the full, not the 2 hours. The full 15 minutes or whatever the show on TV is on.
Well, my grandmother has it recorded if anyone wants to come over and watch on her Skybox from 4 years
ago. We will put up the link. Okay, and what about now? I mean, are you a big man for eating out? Do you cook yourself?
I'd say the last year I've kind of watched what I eat a little bit more, but
you're hitting the big 3-0 soon.
Yeah, so but it's more so eating out. It's kind of like, it's those little, it's like peaks and valleys. It's like, you know, your peak is always, let's say, just, you know, like keep it tight, you know, eat well, all that kind of stuff. But then when I do go out, it's you go hard in the paint, like really with food and stuff like that. You know, really just like I would never say I'm good at much, but I'm good for eating, like, and I've been told, so it's good.
And living in Dublin, there must be new places to try all the time. I mean, do you ever get around to all the places?
Yeah, it's a funny one. Like there's parts of it that are good, but also parts of it I don't like. Because when you're in a city, people are really craving for what's new and stuff like that, where they don't really recognise what's kind of good already.
And say you do get a first date now, say one of your best mates organises a date with a girl, where's your go-to spot that you're going to impress them with? You know, where's your romantic or your cool food place, or where would you bring a first date?
Where would I bring a first date? I really like, there's a place called 777.
Oh, 777.
Yeah. And that's
a great date spot.
Yeah. There's something I like about places where you go, the door closes behind you, and you could literally be anywhere. And that place is very much like that.
Great,
there's a few places in Dublin that are like that.
First place I ever had ceviche was 777.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the most I've ever dropped on a bill. It's it's just the margaritas, like lethal. And the first margarita I ever had was awful. I was like, I'll never have this again. But in there, they just do it so well. And it's great.
I have the other problem. I can't take tequila, so my bill is never that. It's all just food.
Okay.
And do you cook yourself?
Yeah, look, I try to, and a lot of the stuff I do is kind of very thrown together, and it's what I like. It's just, you can just throw stuff in a pan and you can just kind of go with it. There's not a whole lot of thought put into it, and it's stuff that's kind of versatile. So like, you can just look in your cupboard and see what kind of spices, what kind of seasoning you've got, and just throw it in. You know what I mean?
So say you're at home on a Wednesday evening, there's no one in the house, and you're just putting something together for yourself. What's the last thing you would have cooked for yourself?
I take the last maybe 3 months out of it, because I've been on this like fitness regime, so it's
yeah.
gotten pretty grim.
There's no fun in that.
Yeah, it's gotten pretty grim.
pre that.
A dish I'd like for lunch is I don't know if you've ever had kedgeree. It's I think it's inspired by India and like the immigration from India, and like if you ever go to London, that's such a melting pot of all different cuisines and stuff like that, and you can really have anything you want there. But it's a rice based dish, and like I tell people about it, and like, oh, that sounds a bit grim, but it's lovely. It's traditionally made with like with kippers, but I use mackerel. I use like kind of smoked mackerel. There's rice, coriander, chili, onions, garlic, loads of different spices, and boiled eggs. And it sounds, and like really fresh coriander on top, and it does sound a bit like out there maybe for like an Irish palate from what I've kind of spoken to, but it's really, really good, and it's something that I always enjoy kind of cooking. And there's a nice process to it, you know. And
can you do a healthy version of that these days?
Well, yeah, no, it's pretty like
I was going to say, it sounds okay.
It's pretty healthy. Like, you don't have to, but obviously, you know, it depends on your, you know, what oil and stuff like that you're putting in it, and you know, I suppose you could use cauliflower or rice, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's too short.
Yeah. I know.
And what about junk food? Do you have any? Would you eat junk food, or you gone past that stage now with your health buzz?
No. Like, junk food would play a part, but it's very much in that, like, let's say, that valley of where you go to a dark place where you're just It's always it always happens when some of my mates I hang out with and we just go to town. It turns into a thing where we're like, let's go for some food, and then it becomes a whole ordeal of just constant eating and going from place to place. And when I come home, it's just something triggers in me that I need to eat all the things. You know, I don't know what it is. Like I'll be fine up in Dublin where I live, but when I come home to Navan, it's like, okay, it's time
give me
to
the jellies,
chocolate.
give me the chocolate.
Mad.
And what's your weakness? I mean, jellies, chocolate, ice cream, instant coffee, ice cream.
Yeah, just like it's
cheap ice cream, good ice cream, any ice cream.
No, good ice cream. Nice gelato. Yeah, you could see yourself really. I can just keep eating this until I throw up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's no the mental connection is not there to stop. You know what I mean? So.
And if you had to pick one ingredient that you couldn't live without, one thing that, you know, wouldn't be worth living if you couldn't have it, what would that be?
That's something that is, it's a hard one to think of because it's so much.
Too easy to take off.
Yeah. Before I kind of would have said, I might have said something like toast. I think toast is...
It's a lifesaver, yeah.
I think for me what toast is, it's like, it's a catalyst for flavour. I think it's like, I always remember great food memories was sitting in my granny's and having a fry. And you're going at the fry, you have your sausage, you have a bit of bacon, you have egg and all this. And then there's just something about, you have that all in your mouth and you're chewing. And you just take a bite of real buttery toast. And
white toast, I presume.
White toast, yeah. And just something it's like everything just fuses together. I don't know what it is. It's almost like, it's like that. That's my ratatouille moment, I think. You know when he has the ratatouille? Yeah. That's it. Like, if I'm back there. I'm back. I'm 7 or 8 years old. I'm like...
Brilliant.
Yeah, so that would be it. I think that would be
toast.
Yeah. Now... The toast hasn't been a great feature in my life in the last while. I wish it was more, but yeah, I have a great fondness for it. And sure, bread, you know yourself.
I do, too well. And what about one ingredient that you could happily rid the world of? Something you could banish from your life?
So this might be a controversial one, but I hate salt and vinegar crisps.
Okay.
Yeah, I always have. I just have a problem with them. I think like salt and vinegar crisp is like being stabbed or electrocuted or something like that. I just find it so unpleasant an experience to have them.
So be gone, salt and vinegar crisp.
Yeah, like.
And what about some of these fancier ones like balsamic sea salt and all this?
I think it's, you know, yeah, maybe like I've probably had them. I wouldn't go out of my way to have them. I think it's just that marriage of that classic Tato salt and vinegar that I don't know. And like, it's a weird thing because I remember, like, I almost imagine like it all on my clothes and I kind of smell like it. Like I remember your brother used to kind of torture me. He used to put his hands in it and he'd like be, you know, floating his fingers over to me, and it really bothered me. So yeah, it's a funny one, but yeah, I just can't. It's something I can't shake.
Salt and vinegar. Okay, let's talk a little bit about drink then as well. So, are you a drinker?
Yeah, no, I really like drink.
Do you remember your first ever drink?
Yes, I do. The first drink I ever had was at my parents' wedding when I was probably 6 or 7.
What was it?
My auntie Emma gave me a Woody's orange to shut up. I think it was just annoying her. She said, "Here, take that." And I don't remember.
Good woman, Emma.
Yeah. I don't remember it affecting me or whatever. I probably was hyper, and it probably exacerbated the situation. Yeah. But yeah, that was my favourite one.
And
not my favourite one. My first one.
And first time drunk?
I was probably 14 in a friend's house. We were just having, it was those little French bottles of beer.
The little squat ones.
Is it like Bombardier or something like that? I can't remember.
The little squat.
Yeah, the little ones. And sitting there just drinking, and then it was fine. We're just sipping away, and then we decided to go for, it was middle of the night, we decided to go for a walk around his estate. It was almost this cathartic moment where I thought, I might like leave the earth, I might float away. It was honestly like, what is this about? You know what I mean? And that was like, yeah, so that was the first time that happened. Yeah, so it was interesting.
But it's happened a few times since. And what's your relationship like with booze now? You're on a health buzz? You drinking?
Look, I've had, like, it's not been, I haven't been completely teetotal. The advantage or disadvantage of someone doing it alongside me.
The health, you mean?
Say again?
Someone doing the healthy kick?
Yeah. So it's kind of, it's almost, we're in competition, so that's kind of fueling it. But yeah, there have been times when I've had, definitely had. And it's more so like, it's not drinking for drinking's sake. It's like, it's pubs. Like, it's going out and it's the conversations and it's just that little bit of...
The nonsense.
Getting a little bit loose. Like, just kind of,
And what do you drink? You walk into a pub, what's your order?
Guinness, yeah.
All the time?
Yeah, Guinness all the time. And I hear people would say, like, Guinness is very heavy and Guinness is very... I would drink Guinness all night. I don't know what it is. I just have the constitution for it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Like, I'd be in nightclubs and I'd be drinking Guinness.
Oh, Jesus. Brave man.
I know, yeah, but...
you just have the constitution for Guinness.
Yeah, and it's aided and abetted by people who are my friends and they're kind of the same and we just, it'd be the same. So.
You flock together.
Yeah.
Any favourite pubs? You're in Dublin, you're in Navan, around the world?
My favourite pub in Dublin is a place called Fallon's. So it's actually across the road from where I'm working now.
That's handy.
Yeah. So it's this dingy little bar. Smells like farts. Like the guy behind the bar, he'd be the only person there on a Saturday night. You're mad busy, and he'd cut you if you say anything. If you misstep, and even the way if you stutter, he'd cut you. Doesn't have time, for this mess and but it's just great. I really like it, and I had a pint of Guinness in there after a Christmas party one day. It was Paddy's Day, and I was dying. Went in, had one in there, and it just was like the biggest breath of life I've ever had. It's like that, another one of those like cathartic moments where it's like, oh my god, this is class. So that'd be my favourite pub in Dublin. Very
good. And would you ever have to go to any of the cool spots, or do you like the dingy?
Yeah, I prefer the dingy. Not so much dingy, but like
old school pubs.
Yeah, old school more so. Like the cool spots are kind of, the cool spots are good because there's good perving in there and. Like, there's a place called PMax in Dublin. That's kind of, it would be like a nucleus point for a lot of kind of hip, attractive, and I was in there with a mate one night, last time I was there, and I was like, Jesus, there's an awful lot of attractive people in here. And we just kind of stood there and she's the same. And we're like, there's something for everyone here. There's something for you, there's fellas, there's something for me. And we just stood there just looking around, and that kind of stuff was great as well.
But when you're in an industry like coffee, which is full of hipsters and cool people and, funky people, do you not be drawn with that crowd to the funky, cool, hipstery places? Or do you just do your own thing?
No, well, the thing is, I think the whole coffee thing is it's, specialty coffee is traditionally viewed as that cool hipster thing, but it's becoming more just run of the mill now, it's like...
yeah, but there is a higher degree of beards and tattoos and piercings in the coffee industry than there would be behind working in bars, say.
Yeah, maybe, but even where I worked I worked when I was in Two Boys Brew, like, to call us cool, like, we, like, to go on of us behind the scenes, you would not call us cool, you know what I mean? So, it's nice to be a little bit apart from it and still be, authentically yourself, which is, I wouldn't say I'm a cool person, in that, certainly in that beards and hipstery kind of way. Yeah. But it's nice that it's a little bit more accessible to everyone now and not just, viewed as
hipsters.
Yeah, exactly.
And what about after your night in the dingy pub drinking 27 pints of Guinness? What's your hangover cure the next morning? Do you have one?
Hangover cure, it's usually always a curry. There's just... A
curry from the night before or a fresh made curry?
Oh, fresh one, yeah. Like a nice butter chicken... nice butter chicken, pilau rice, like a nice garlic coriander naan, maybe a peshwari naan, it always seems to...
What about the hair of the dog? You already said the Guinness was
I did, but generally it wouldn't be... There's things I stay away from. I wouldn't be a great drinker of coffee when I'm hungover.
Really?
No. Like, it would need to be almost, I don't want to... almost like drip fed to me in like a bit, maybe like a single shot milky coffee or something like that. Just I couldn't have an espresso. it just doesn't.
Just doesn't do it for you.
It's just too much. It's too intense when I'm hungover. It's not kind of what I want.
I would have been 100% sure you would have said coffee.
No, whatever about like loving it and day to day, but there's something about being hungover I just can't really handle it too well.
Okay, I'll have to talk about hangovers. Always a good time to take a break, so we will take a break. We might grab another specialty coffee, and we'll be back for part 2. Welcome back to the Chopping Block Podcast, where my guest this week is Barista Eoghan Newman. So every week I ask my guests for a recipe. It can be something they cook or something they love having cooked for them. I'll then take the recipe, cook it, and share the process on my Instagram story. Now obviously, as I say every week, I'm not a chef. It may go completely wrong. Luckily enough, it hasn't so far. But whatever happens, you can watch along on my Instagram story. So Eoghan, what have you got for me?
This is a dish I've kind of started making a bit more recently. And talking to you before about, having something that's versatile, you can just throw whatever in, and this kind of goes in line with that. So it's like a potato hash. You'd find this in a lot of places you see it kind of in cafes in Dublin and brunchy places and stuff. It's kind of become a staple of that in the last, however long, like brunch has become a thing in Dublin. And it's kind of really easy, and it's just, like I said, throw it in a pan.
Easy is good.
Yeah, easy is good. You start off with bacon, so that's always good. And
always good.
I remember someone said, like, the greatest thing about bacon is that it makes its own fat, so you don't need. So your bacon in a pan, cold pan, render the fat out. You take that out, and then you just
cold pan. So put it in cold, turn up the heat.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it kind of renders all the fat out, and then you get that nice and crispy. You take it out, and then you just kind of start kind of adding stuff, and it just kind of depends on what you want. Like, there's so much that you can put in it, but like a good staple is you're just doing your onion, your garlic. You can put peppers in it, and then your spuds.
What way do you put the spuds in?
Kind of baby potatoes are good, kind of cubed.
Do you pre-cook them or just put them in?
Yeah, no, like it's a great leftover dish as well,
okay,
because you can kind of use. But potatoes that have been cooked, you put them in. You just kind of let them sit there in the heat, and then they'll get a really nice kind of crust on the bottom, and then you move them. You're almost gonna like cast iron is great to use with it. You'll almost kind of have to scrape them off.
So this is on top of everything else.
Yeah, this is on top of everything else.
Lovely.
And then you get that going, then you chuck in your whatever spices you have. Like, I kind of like, throwing some nice woody herbs like rosemary, thyme, your salt, pepper, all that kind of crack. And then it's kind of just up to you what you want to kind of put on top of it. It's really good with certain kind of meats. The last one I made, I just had a random ribeye left over in the fridge.
As you do.
As you do, yeah. Pop that on there, poach some eggs on there as well, and it's kind of like, I kind of like a bit of a caveman kind of meal. It's just, I had it there the other day, and you're just kind of like, oh, this is great. You're just...
So, you cook it all in the pan?
Yeah.
Then you cut the steak up and you put it on top of it?
Well, no, the steak you cook separately.
Yeah, so you cook steak, and would you have it, like, you normally have steak medium rare or whatever?
Yeah, you do medium rare.
And then slice it up and put on top of it?
Put on top of it.
Poach some eggs?
Yeah, if you poached eggs, you put them on top of it.
So, it sounds to me like a very brunchy dish.
It is a brunchy dish, but like
a pan in the middle of the table and everybody works
around. Yeah, and like even the poached eggs, you don't have to poach them if you want to go a little bit less. If you want to go like more hands off, in your pan with all your spuds and everything going on there, you can create a little well in each. Crack an egg into that and fry them, and then just serve it up like that. And like, there's a lot you can do. You can make it a little bit fresher. Like, you can put in, you can serve it with like some nice pickled veg or something, like a nice ribbon of cucumber with like pickled, and make it nice, and you can even like kind of deglaze the pan a little bit with some apple cider vinegar, and that just be really nice. You might sacrifice a little bit of the crispiness of the potatoes with that, but it's not, but it's really nice, because all that stuff kind of on the bottom of the pan, you kind of want that as well.
So a steak and eggs hash.
Yeah, that's it. I just kind of had it there a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, this is class. Like, it's a little... You're patting yourself in the back, like,
What can go wrong if I'm cooking it, or when I'm cooking it?
Well, the thing is, not much can go wrong. Like, I suppose the steak is something that can go wrong. It's kind of like, I think for anyone who cooks steak, do you get a little bit obsessed with really trying to cook it as well as possible? and you kick yourself when you don't do it right, or let's say you know you're going to have steak tomorrow night, but you leave the house without leaving it out of the fridge for 6 hours, and you're kicking yourself. You know what? You know what I mean? It's all happens. But
and I suppose the cardinal sin as well would be hard eggs.
Yeah, like look, if you're a bit you're a bit squeamish about it. No, but like
gotta have
I know. But yeah, the probably the steak is the only thing. Like you like I've done a you can do a lot of methods with the steak. You you can reverse sear it, all this kind of crack. I even did the Heston Blumenthal method where you're like it's in a fridge on a rack for 2 days and you're salting it periodically throughout.
What was that like?
I think I just made a balls of it when I was cooking it. And it's kind of like that's the risk.
I am not going to be doing that.
No. And he would be turning it every 30 seconds and all that because he'd said that's the best way to get the Maillard reaction to work, to get a nice crust and the caramelization and all that. But it wasn't worth the time.
Someone bought me a Heston Blumenthal book and I don't think I've ever done anything in it. It's too advanced.
Yeah.
Eoghan Newman's steak eggs hash coming at you. Okay, that'll be on my Instagram by the time this comes out, so you'll be able to see how it goes. Sounds good. I'm already thinking of ways to present it.
Yeah, and like you can really put your own spin in it. Like it's something that's very simple and it's very, very foolproof. And
hopefully.
Yeah.
It's kind of worrying that out of 4 podcasts, 2 people have said I've done something really simple for it. Okay, let's finish off our last feature. It's your perfect meal. So I'm asking you for your perfect meal, otherwise known as your death row meal, but we want to be happy about it. Mm-hmm. So the base I'm giving you is 3 courses, drinks to match, but you can do anything you want with it. You can have 1 big dish, you can have 10 courses.
Okay.
You can have aperitifs. I'm guessing there'll probably be coffee. You can have your own cooking dishes from a restaurant. You can have a battered sausage or a Chateaubriand. You can have cocktails, wine, whiskey, or you can have the most special and rarest coffee that you've ever heard of. The choices are endless. So Owen, what's on your menu for your perfect meal?
So I suppose the thing I really like about if you're gonna go eating, just dedicate a day to it. Really, you know what I mean. But I suppose this meal I've kind of I've kept it kind of tight enough to, let's say, over the course of, let's say, an evening. But you start early. So I always think there's something nice about starting off with a nice drink or starting off with it. Like I'm not big into cocktails, but if this is going to be with your mates, or I'm not doing this.
It's your perfect meal. Do whatever you want.
So there's I wouldn't be much into cocktails, but there's something great about an old fashioned. Yeah. I really, really like an old fashioned. I actually had a really nice one there, and it was like made with this fig date cinnamon syrup.
Hipster old fashioned.
It was, yeah, but it was really, really nice.
What whiskey was it made with?
I don't actually know.
It was all about the figs.
All about them figs,
Okay, so you're having an old fashioned.
Yeah. And then starter wise, this is one I struggle with a lot of it, but the starter and the main was one I didn't really know. But the starter, I'd have like a pork belly bun, so like an Asian bao bun.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, really nice. Like there's when you talk about bao, there's 2 different types that mainly get flagged in people's head. It's kind of the little steamed dumplings, like that little Pixar short movie bao, that one. But this one is more kind of like, it's that little puffy, I think it's called lotus leaf bread. Really, it's like a little cloud, and then you've got your Asian style pork and whatever kind of sauce, maybe like a hoisin or a plum sauce. You can put anything on it. You can put nice.
What are you putting on it? It's your perfect meal.
Like peanuts, nice kind of satay sauce, nice crunchy veg, sesame seeds,
pickled ginger.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Lots of flavors going on, and the great thing about them is that they're kind of almost like Asian tacos. Like you can have.
What are you going to drink with that?
There's something about a really nice. I don't know what it is, but anytime I've gone to, let's say, even like the Chinese even like the China Garden in Navan or kind of like an Asian style place anywhere, I really like a nice crisp Asian beer, like what's the brands, like an Asahi, which is I think is Japanese, or a Tsingtao, which I think is Chinese, or I've mixed them both up. But something like that is really nice, and it's just kind of
cuts through the
yeah.
Very good. Okay, so how many of those bao buns would you have? 1, 2, 10? Remember now, it's your starter.
I know. There's a lot of eating to come, like, so I suppose it's maybe three. Let's say three. Different. We might have a pork. There might be maybe a tempura prawn or something like that, and then something else. But like the staple is the pork. It's really, really good.
Okay, so you finished your bao buns. You've polished off your beer.
Yeah.
What's next? Are you moving to your main course? Are you having a pre-dessert? Are you having a...
We're going to just throw some oysters in there.
Oh, yeah. I know you're talking.
Yeah, I remember actually being for dinner with you and Damien, and you two ordered oysters just as... Like, we're already in a pretty fancy restaurant, like in London, Richard Corrigan's restaurant. And you're like, yeah, sure, throw a few oysters in this set menu we've already picked from, that there's 7 or 8 courses on it anyway. Throw some oysters in there for the crack. And yeah, I just really like, it's kind of, it's almost like a ceremonial thing, really. It's just really kind of, and there's nothing like it. There's nothing like an oyster. It's one of the most, like that intense flavour of the sea, and it's just...
And the texture.
The texture and the way you eat it, and just...
There's the famous quote, he was a brave man who first ate an oyster.
Yeah, I know, like mad.
And what do you put in them? Do you put lemon on them? Do you put Tabasco?
More so lemon.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of Tabasco, but it'd probably be... I'm a bit of an oyster purist myself.
And what are you going to drink with that? Are you going to have a glass of bubbles, or are you going to have a...
Oh, champagne.
Champagne.
Yeah.
It's your perfect meal.
Yeah.
Okay, so you finish your oysters. You've washed your hands to get the smell of the sea off them. What are you doing next?
So go main, and I'm going to harken back to that same trip that we went on to London, and we went to this place called Anchor and Hope.
Oh yeah.
And I remember that plate of food that I got, and I really try and really think about it and remember exactly what was going on. It was a venison loin, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was kind of, I think it was like licorice glazed or something like that. Not quite.
Some kind of aniseed, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of licorice or aniseed flavour, but it was just nice on it. There's like this savoury semolina cake. There was like this celeriac kind of colcannon thing going on. There was a foam. I don't know what it was. And then there was another sauce, but it was just class. And it was just, yeah.
It's perfection.
It was just perfection. And what also was so great was, didn't Damien order a fish dish?
No, I ordered.
You ordered a fish dish, yeah.
I have great memories of your dish because mine was so bad.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
It was bad. You two ordered venison, and to this day I don't know what I was thinking because
because you didn't want to get the same thing as the two lads.
I love venison.
Yeah,
and I ordered a sole. It was a special. It was the last one, and I spent the next 20 minutes picking bones out. I couldn't taste the flavour because of all the bones in it. And the two lads sitting there talking about how unbelievably brilliant their venison was.
So not only was it delicious, but you had the fond memory of, the crack of, ripping the piss out of you because of what a fool you were to order that. But,
and what are you going to drink with your venison?
Probably starting the red wine. Probably just like, a friend of mine got me into Tempranillo. He just really liked it, and he just really likes it, and we used to go out for dinner. He just ordered the whole time. I've never been disappointed. It's really, really good. And it's a go-to.
Yeah. I
went for food recently, and this is a kind of a fancier place, and I was all like, "Could I get the Tempranillo, please?" And they said, "Oh yeah, the rosé." I was like, "What? A rosé? No." So I didn't know, but then I think we got something else. I tried to look good in front of the lads,
but that would go pretty well. Well, in fairness to them, I think the majority of people who would look at Tempranillo, me included, would think of red wine. Yeah.
Like it's something I wish I knew more about. I don't know a whole lot about wine.
Very good. Okay, so you've polished off the last year venison. You've had your foam. You've had your semolina cake.
Yeah, I think it was like a savoury kind of semolina cakey thing. Really tasty.
Okay,
and what really worked. Like it tasted like you're thinking.
Semolina,
yeah, but it did really, really work. It was lovely.
Okay, and you've cleaned all the plate. Well, actually, what I do remember about that meal as well, the waiter was brilliant. He saw you two with a bit of juice left in your steak, and he said, "Lads, you want white bread?"
Yeah.
Like, this guy is the best. I was still picking out bones. So you've cleaned the plate with white bread. What's next?
So we move on to dessert, and like I'm a big fan of dessert. I really like it. So that was probably the hardest one to pick because there's a lot that I was trying to pick between. So I might have a trio of desserts.
It's your meal.
So Yeah, so there's this Middle Eastern pastry called baklava, and anytime I've had it, it's so delicious. It's lovely. It's kind of, I'm sure you've seen it on like the Great British Bake Off and stuff like that. But it's phyllo pastry, wrapped in this kind of roll and cut up, and there's nuts in there, and there's like honey syrup in it, and it's just so nice. So that'll be one part of it. I remember I went to Chapter 1 with a friend of mine. I got a voucher for Christmas, and we went and we had this dessert at the end, and it was a Paris breast.
A what?
A Paris breast. So it's like it's like a French.
Oh, Paris.
Yeah.
Paris. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I didn't know what you're talking about.
But it was just so nice.
What is it?
It's like, so it's a choux pastry. It's kind of almost like a fancy, really, really fancy donut. It's a choux pastry cooked in a ring, cut open, and there's creme pat piped in. But this was like a maple pecan.
Oh yeah.
So, and there was like I think it was this, but I remember seeing the recipe for it somewhere as well. That the pastry chef in there is a serious kind of.
I follow him on Instagram.
Yeah,
he's unbelievable.
I was reading about him, and he got into it because he found out he got a really bad. He found he had a really bad seafood allergy or something like that. So he was really pushed into pastry because it was the less risky, and it was a great thing for him. But yeah, like just so much going on, and it was so good. And it's one of those things like with any. I find mostly with desserts, with every spoon, it's just like there's you just want to savor it. I think like more so like, I love, starters, mains, whatever, but just with dessert, I think there's that impetus to, like, if you ever see like MasterChef, and do you ever see the way the dude on the bald dude
loves his desserts,
like puts it in, it's there for about a second or two, and then he just like slowly draws it out, and it's like, that's how I like eating desserts. It's just
Okay.
And then the last one is probably the nicest dessert dish I've ever had. It was in that restaurant Eto. Like, people talk about it and say it's one of those dishes you have to have, and you look at it on the menu, and it's red wine soaked prunes and a vanilla mascarpone.
Okay.
And you're thinking, really,
Yeah.
It comes down, prunes. There's a little squidge of, a big squidge of the vanilla mascarpone, and then there's the sauce. But it's so nice, unbelievably good. It just
Works.
it just works, and the marriage of everything that got so right, and you're just so sad when it's over. So that's probably the best dessert I've probably ever had.
High recommendation.
Yeah.
And would you have a drink with your dessert? Stick with the red wine, dessert wine.
Well, probably after, I'd probably have a port. Just really like port. Port is great.
Port is great.
Port is just great.
Yep.
It's so tasty.
Great.
It's kind of like, and you're having it and you're like, this is great. Like, why
do people not drink more
yeah,
port?
I know.
And are you done? Are you having anything else? I'm guessing there has to be a coffee.
Like, I suppose coffee is just so, it's almost like a thing that's separate for me a little bit. From it's its own thing. Like, it's something that I care very much about professionally, and trying to perfect and trying to get the best out of it. And I think about it very almost, I try and break it down logically. How am I going to improve this? And so it's kind of almost separate. Like, I would very rarely have, like, look, if I go for brunch or if I'm going for breakfast, I'll always have a coffee. But with dinner, I'd very rarely.
But let's put aside, say it was your death row meal.
Yeah.
Is there a particular coffee you've never tried that you'd love to try?
Well, the thing about it is, there's not, great coffee is so accessible to everyone, and that's the fundamental thing about it.
It's not like a bottle of wine that you could pay 20 grand for.
No, like, I remember watching, there was a show, I think it was on Channel 4, and it was kind of going through, the rich and famous, and how the other half live, and one part of it was that the food they eat, and there was these guys that do coffee for the elite, like the richest of the rich, and it's, you get into that kind of, the Kopi Luwak coffee and all that kind of thing, and gimmicky stuff, and it's like, you're not having a greater experience than I am, you know what I mean? And like, talking about food, like, that's something I really love about food as well. Like, if you think about like Jeff Bezos, you know what I mean? The richest man in the world, astonishingly rich. Like, he's not enjoying his food
Any more than we are.
Any more than we are.
Your steak, eggs and hash is going to be as nice as his.
Like,
it's probably going to be nicer because we're in Ireland.
The only thing that he's paying for extra is maybe convenience and a bit of theatre.
Yeah.
And that's it, so.
It's a great leveller.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Okay, so you finished your port. You're not going to have a coffee.
Yeah.
Are you done?
Well, I like the idea that the meal is, I suppose, there's going to be maybe a night out afterwards, so probably a feed of Guinness afterwards. And then after all that, there's a place in Dublin I really, really like, and it's called DeFontaine's Pizza.
Yeah.
And it's like this New York style pizzeria, and you can go in there at 4 a.m. and it's like I've danced in there. I've had raging arguments there. I've bawled my eyes out in there. It's a mad old place, and their pizza is really, really good. It's like,
this is about the most Irish perfect meal ever. We've all done it. We've all gone out for romantic meals or special events. We've had all the food and it's been amazing. And I'm done, and then I'm gonna go for a few drinks, and invariably 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, there's Zaytoon kebabs, there's Valley Cafe burgers, there's pizza.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it.
But apart from all that, like, the pizza's really, really good, and you get massive 2 slices and a big thing of their garlic aioli, which is my favourite garlic aioli. So yeah.
And does it taste as good during the day as it does after a feed of pints?
No, I've had it. It's good for a little. It's one of those. It's nice for a little nip in and just grab and go, and then take a little 10 minutes in there, just have a quick bite, and then you're away. So it's just one of the places I really kind of, it's kind of special, almost. Yeah.
It's funny, you're the first person I've asked for the perfect meal who's made a night out of it and gone on the beer afterwards.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so that was a hell of a meal. I'd love to join you just purely to get the idea of that bony soul out of my mouth and out of my mind.
Yeah.
And to try that venison that looked so good from across the table. And the two, you were even kind enough to offer me some, but out of pure stubbornness,
I know. I remember that.
I wouldn't take it. So that's us done. Thanks.
No bother. Thanks very much for having me.
And thanks to you, the listener, for staying with us to the end. If you like what you've heard, subscribe wherever you get your pods. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Castbox. We were added something called iHeartRadio this week, which I don't even know what it is. And we're on YouTube as well. And it'd be lovely if you were to subscribe. And if you want to leave a positive review to help us get the word out, we'd be very grateful. We're across all the usual social media platforms too. Just search for the Chopping Block Pod in your favourite and you'll find us. Remember, Owen's steak and egg hash is now on my Insta story. And if you don't see it today, Sunday, it'll be on my Insta highlights. So if you want to give it a try, it's there. If you cook it, take a photo and share it. Feel free to tag us in it. And we'll show off your dishes to the world. If any of you were impressed by what Owen talked about with his specialty coffees, call into 2 Pups Coffee on Francis Street in the Liberties. Tell him that the Chopping Block Podcast sent you, and he'll give you some of the good stuff. So that's all from me. Thanks again, Owen. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks very much, Paddy. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So farewell, everyone. Stay safe, and we will chat to you next time on The Chopping Block.